Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe joining you as always, though it is late. It's a little after midnight on Saturday, December 9th. The Mavericks finished up playing an impossibly long game against the Portland Trailblazers that featured 755 fouls and really some horrendous basketball. But they won 125-120. Josh just finished up writing a lengthy recap, which I assume has to mean you have a lot to say about this game.
I don't know, because it was. I think I just got maybe a little carried away, because it really is just like a, outside of the Kyrie injury, which we can get to later. I mean, it really is just the kind of game where you just take it and you move on to the next one. Yeah. I'm not sure entirely how much to take away from it, because the Trailblazers are an awful team. Let's just
just real bad.
Yeah. I mean, and the Utah is also an awful team. I mean, to be honest, when it was 28-10 in the first quarter, I honestly was like, is this going to be another 50-point win, or, is this going to be another laugher? And lo and behold, it wasn't. And I think the Blazers junked the game up enough. Kyrie getting hurt also doesn't help.
Luka got bored. That was the
maybe the newborn sleep schedule caught up to him tonight. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, it was interesting because I was talking with my friend Sean Hyken and Danny Meringue, who both cover the Blazers in Portland. They were at the game, and during the game, they're texting me, and it's like, all right, this one's over. Luka's just because Luka really takes one of the nice evolutions about Luka's game this year, I think, in aggregate, maybe not this game, is that I think he takes pleasure destroying bad teams. And he started out the first quarter pretty good. Pretty good.
I think 14 in the first.
Yeah. Just another really good first quarter. And then after that, the Mavericks collectively kind of took their foot off the gas at points. The game got a little sloppy. This was the first game I can remember the double team actually affecting Luka. And I think that has more to do with Luka than anything the Blazers did. Because he looked a little out of it, little weird. I don't know. Overall, I would say this was a game where you slogged through it. You're happy they get the W. You're happy to hear after the game that Kyrie Irving was at the door greeting teammates on his feet. He did not get moved out of the arena in a wheelchair, which was something the Portland broadcast said, and really threw Mavs fans in a dither. But look, unless like the Mavericks confirm it, everybody just needs to relax with shit like that. Like they're not, they're cagey about injuries. Okay. Not going to sit here and act like they're not, but can we not do the thing where we yell at boots on the ground reporters like Brad Townsend and like question their integrity? Can we just not do that, please, people?
Yeah. I don't think this is a case of like someone from Portland was like lying or trying to drum something up. I mean, they probably just saw something they didn't know what they were seeing. Yeah. I mean, it's not either they maybe mistook someone else for Kyrie, which isn't crazy, or maybe Kyrie was, maybe they just wheeled him from like,
which is fine.
Just for a little bit, just so he didn't have to walk.
What I want to know is what his injury is, and if you can't tell me that tonight, then fine. Then I'll just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah,
The dirty little secret about Kyrie that no one wants to actually talk about, and I don't understand this, is that his foot is not in a good place. It is a manageable thing. So when Dwight Powell's big 240-pound ass lands on it like that, you're gonna freak out, and you should. I think let's talk about the Dwight Powell of it all and then move on, because I don't want to circle back to it repeatedly. Okay. So you are a staunch Dwight Powell defender in the sense
I am. I'm unabashed.
Yes, and that's fine. I have kind of come around to that point of view. That said, what Dwight Powell did tonight was one of the most recklessly weird, pointless decisions I've ever seen him make on a basketball court. Like, he wasn't near the play. He just jumped. I watched it like 6 times. I tried to figure out what he was doing. Still have no idea.
Yeah, that's from a guy that's been in the league almost 10 years. I know that his MO is hustle guy, but that play was over. Not only was it was over in 2 ways. One, the ref called a foul for Kyrie, whoever fouled Kyrie. So the play was dead. So what he was going for didn't matter. And I understand in the heat of the moment, maybe it's hard to switch gears when you hear the whistle. But again, that play was over. That play was dead. Second of all, it was also dead because he had no chance at the ball.
None. Like, we're not talking like fingertip length. We're talking like an arm's length. He's just out there spinning around, jumping and swatting in shit like a dummy. And it drives me crazy when he does that recklessly, because the offensive tip outs are not as great as the Mavericks announcers like to act like they are. And then when he does it on defense, he normally swats it back to the other damn team. So we like Powell. We think he has a place in the game. What we know, though, is that he really probably should only play limited minutes. And this was another one of these games where it became very clear to everybody. We talk about this almost every second game, that the Mavericks do not have enough size. Markieff Morris had to come in and play center because Dwight Powell got so many fouls, because Derek Lively had some really decision-making at times. It is what it is, but this is going to be a thing that bites them in the ass all year long.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is Powell he didn't have a great game, but he had some moments. He had a couple of steals. I mean, he also, he got burned on a couple of bad plays. And but again, like, I feel bad because he's already the team punching bag, and I am sure, like, I'm hoping that Irving's injury is minor, because if he's missing anything more than a game or two, Dwight should just deactivate all of his social media, because it's gonna get like outrageously ugly for him. But on the other end of the spectrum, like, just because people shouldn't be idiot fans online and say, vile things to athletes they don't know,
right?
That doesn't discount the fact that, like, we can be honest, it was a dumb play. Like, accidents happen, yes, but you don't, as a professional athlete, you have to know, especially one that's been in the league as long as Dwight has, like, you have to know when to go and when not to go. And it's not just that he hurt Kyrie. Like, that's a dumb play, even if he doesn't fall on anyone. He almost hurt himself. I mean, he fell directly on his back, flipping over another player. Like, that's just, he could have hurt a Portland player. He could have hurt himself. Like, that's just that's a silly play that, like, an inexperienced guy would make, like someone that hasn't been in the league long enough would make. Like, Powell doesn't need to be making those types of plays almost 10 years in the league. Like, he just doesn't.
He doesn't. All right. So that's the Dwight Powell of it all. We're over it. It's a thing that happened on the court. On to more fun things, because the Dallas Mavericks did win. And the thing that everyone should be taking away from this game, you have been kind of needling around it. You've mentioned it in multiple podcasts. You've been tweeting it. Dante Exum has made a case to be the third starter. Like Dante Exum has made a case to be in the starting lineup, like, as a fixture.
Yes, he has, for sure. I think, definitely helps to play Utah and Portland in back-to-back games, but he's definitely showing why, like, we've said this over and over. You've said it. I've said it. We've talked about it on podcasts. We've written it on the site. Our friend, Logan Thompson, who's written for us in the past. Shout
out, Logan, wherever you are. You disappeared on me. If you listen to this podcast, please reach out.
Yeah, he wrote a really good piece before the draft, kind of making his case for why Anthony Black would have been a good pick.
Yeah,
basically talking about how and I've also talked about this. The league is shifting, I think, from I feel like for a while it was 3-and-D was the rage, and you needed to surround your stars with 3-and-D players because defenses were shading off of non-shooters. Because remember, there was an era, and it wasn't. I mean, it was long ago now, but Keith Bogans was the starting 2 guard for the Derrick Rose Chicago Bulls. Those defensive first perimeter players that couldn't do a lick on offense, but they played good defense. You could get away with it just the way the league was being played. And then slowly, as the 3-point revolution kind of took over, it was we cannot play these types of guys, one-way defensive-minded guys that much anymore. We need a guy that can play defense but also hit an open shot. Well, defenses are evolving again, and I feel like they're taking those shots away. They're finding ways to shade off, but then okay, we're just going to run this guy off the 3-point line because he can't dribble. If the only thing he can do is spot up and shoot, we're going to make sure he doesn't spot up and shoot. And I think we've seen that over time, despite the Mavericks offense being really good in the Luka era. There are times in the clutch where it's hurt them, and there's times in the playoffs where it's hurt them, or high leverage situations, or against high quality opponents where, Luka and being surrounded by, 4 other guys that can't dribble or 3 other guys that can't dribble is not necessarily the key to success. Even with adding Kyrie Irving, they still, you still need more. And I've had some people push back that are well, no team in the NBA starts 5 point guards. And it's no, you don't need 5 playmakers. You don't need 5 point guards. You just need guys that can dribble and attack closeouts, which shouldn't be an outlandish skill set for professional NBA, professional basketball players.
Yeah.
So Exum is really showing that he's not running pick and rolls. He's not an offensive hub, but his ability to kind of connect between the Luka, the stars, and then the rest of the non-dribbling role players is really important. And his ability to attack secondary actions and closeouts, not with a jumper, but with a hard drive and good passing ability, just really gets the team moving and gives the team some extra juice that I think makes it even harder for defenses to continually adjust on. And, again, he's done it against we need to see him do it against good teams. His shooting is probably what will hold him back from doing this consistently against good teams. Like teams better than Portland and Utah will make his lack of scoring and lack of shooting pay for it. But again, he was awesome. 23 points, made 2 threes. So if he's doing that, then he can really be a big fixture. But I really feel like that archetype of player, they just really need, they don't need this downhill point guard dynamo to be a starter next to Kyrie and Luka, but just a guy with size that can pass and dribble. It just makes all the difference in the starting lineup compared to what we're used to seeing with Luka, which is guys that are, just spot up shooters that once they have to dribble, it's kind of chaos, kind of a mess. So he's playing so well at this point. He's going to make it hard for the coaching staff, I think, to go back to what was happening before.
Right. Grant.
Yeah. Okay, I was just going to say, because by the way, the starting lineup with Luka, Kyrie, Jones, Grant, and Lively has not been good overall this season. Nope. That's a negative net rating for the season. So, I mean, he's making a big case for maybe a change there.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with that. I mean, really, when you're talking about the regular season, there's so much of it that is innings eating.
Yes, for sure.
We're just trying to figure out what can work, what can buy you things here and there. Because when you got guys that are as talented as Luka and Kyrie, when it comes to the real tense money moments where you're trying to win a key game, you kind of know what you're gonna get. It's about filling in the rest of those holes with existing players. And, having different options with Grant and with Exum and with Derrick Jones Jr. is nice. It's, there's been a lot of odd clamoring for Dorian Finney-Smith lately. And I think that's largely because he's bigger, but
he's also having a career year.
Well, and you'd be adding to the pile
is
what you'd be doing there. You'd be adding to those because it's you want to have as many of those guys as possible to be able to soak up minutes and contribute in statistically positive fashion. So it's nice to see him get his get his flowers, so to speak. we'll see how long they can make it work. You know, they play Memphis, they play Portland a number of more times in the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, they play him again, I think, either next week or the week after.
Yeah, so it's you know, it's one of these things where the Mavericks, who are going to have these opportunities to sort of stack wins, if certain players are you know, are still going through. I mean, there's basically three guys of the preseason rotation were out tonight, and Josh Green, Maxi Kleba, who just doesn't feel like is ever coming back at this point, and Grant Williams, and so it's just. Yep. There's a lot of positive things going on, despite the fact that game was a really ugly slog.
Yeah, it really was. And yeah, I'm totally with you about, like, you know, do you need to eat innings? And you saying that kind of made me think, well, you know, they're winning games. So do they need to make, even if the starting lineup isn't like an aggregate
trade?
Yeah.
No.
Do they need to make a change? Like, maybe it just works with Exum coming off the bench and playing the role that he does. Maybe you keep that starting lineup and maybe hope you get some regression with Williams shooting, and you just like, you know what, Exum's fine, you know, playing where he is, and you just roll with that. I thought this was a funny game. Did you look at like the two stats, the points in the paint and the 3-point shooting?
Right.
I know our man Jack tweeted about it.
Shout out to Jack for noting the bizarro Mavericks. Let's come back to these stats in just a second. All right, we're at roughly the halfway point in the podcast where I do my now regular thing. We have a fair number of viewers here in the show for an after midnight show. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like on the stream, we got 160 people in there. 160 likes would be quite something for me. If you would also consider, while you're hanging out here, subscribing to our show. We do one of these podcasts after every single Mavericks game. I try to do a second show, but with you know, the fan participation show where you guys can come talk with me up here, just like Josh is. It's a real easy show, but I've not been doing them as much lately because I am simply trying to not pass out. New baby is making the whole family quite tired, even though he's pretty straightforward. I will get better as the season goes along. It's a long year. We'll build. And you know, if you do consider leaving us a review, leaving us a comment on the stream, I would really appreciate that. Let's see here.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Okay, before we start talking basketball again, I did want to note one more thing. Anybody listening on Apple, if you're listening to this later, I hope I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the Apple version of our podcast. Our podcast distribution service is a button press thing where you click it and it gets sent out to the particular channels, and it just never made it to Apple. And my boss at Blue Wire cannot figure out why either. Very annoying. So I'm working on that. We'll figure out what's going on there. All right. So talk to me about the two bizarro stats. Right. They're hilarious.
Yeah. So the Mavericks, a team that normally for this season and last season, they don't get to the rim. And the only way they really win games is by making more threes than their opponents. Tonight they lost. They got outshot at the 3-point line by 6 threes. Portland made 18. The Mavericks made 12. And then, but on the other hand, they outscored the Blazers in the paint 62-30. And I honestly cannot remember the last time the Mavericks had 60 or more points in the paint. It's I mean, that would be a fun stat to look up because it has to have been a very, very long time. So it was funny because they finally got to the rim. They finally scored in the paint, but they almost got Mavericked. Like they almost got 3-point shot variant. Like how many games have we seen the Mavericks win that we don't necessarily think looked like a sure thing because they just simply make more threes than everyone. Like even last season, they won 38 games. How many of those, even with only 38 wins, how many of those 38 were like, you really had no business winning this game, but you shot 45% from three and your opponent shot 10. That almost happened to them. And the Portland's a horrible 3-point shooting team, like one of the worst in the league. So this was a weird game for sure.
Right. Cowboy in the chat points out that Malcolm Brogdon, DeAndre Ayton, and Jeremy Grant were all out due to various injury reasons. And that's a reason why you want the Mavericks to take the Blazers a little more seriously. Because if they're a little more talented, they might have actually swept past it. I mean, I could have sworn, I don't want to, Tumani Kamara, I think, was point shaving. Like, that dude sucks. He was not like, he was 6 of 20 from the floor, including 2 of 10 from three, and froze out Anthony Simons twice when that guy was on an absolute heater. I just like, you feel bad for Chauncey Billups and for Portland fans to a degree because they have these guys, and it's just, I mean, that team is bleak. Like Jeremy Grant's not, he's a bit of a gunner. And I think he wants to remain a gunner. I don't think he cares about wins or losses, to be quite candid. DeAndre Ayton is softer than baby shit. Sorry, it's a mean comment, but that dude, I can't stand watching him. Like he's awful. Thank goodness the Mavericks didn't have to draft him in 2008. And then
thank goodness they didn't trade for him this summer.
Right. No, 1,000%.
Could you imagine if he'd be getting minutes over Derek Lively?
Oh my God, we'd be dying. Lively is just so much more functional than him. I mean, Aiden's a super talented player, but talent doesn't mean anything if you can't put it into practice.
Right.
And then there's one more guy. Oh God.
Brogdon. You said Brogdon.
Oh, Brogdon, who I think is actually quite interesting. But Brogdon, from everything I've heard, I suspect he'll end up on a contender at some point this year. But he's probably going to be. I think he's a guy you like to have for like 30 to 40 games, not 80. I think he's a bit of a. He apparently doesn't really get along with coaching staffs very well. Multiple stops, and then there's the real elephant in the room with this team. And the reason we're talking about Portland guys is just I don't really know what more to say about the Mavericks. Scoot Henderson might be. I feel so gaslit about Scoot Henderson, and I watch Scoot Henderson basketball games, but we're talking about a guy who I think he must have been so physically dominant for so much of his life that he doesn't know what to do with the NBA size and speed. He looks lost. 4 of 17 from the floor with 3 assists and 4 turnovers for a point guard. Go away. What are you doing? Like somebody said, send him down to the G League. And I saw another response with what he was there all last year. What the
Yeah, that's weird. I thought he was going to be. I mean,
he looks amazing. Like he physical profile of Baron Davis.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be I thought he was a sure thing. So I mean, but again, he's
young. Yeah, the point guard is the single hardest position to play in the NBA. Yeah. But you just feel bad for the guy because it didn't look like. When I've seen 4 games with him this year, which is not a lot, but it's also 4. He has not had any stretch where I said, oh, it's coming together. He's putting things together right now. There was a play in the first quarter where he should have slid over to help on a Kyrie layup, and he just watched. He was like, ooh, Kyrie. It was one of the more bizarre things, and there's been multiple instances of that happening with him this year where he's like smiling. Like, that's just uncomfortable. I think it just gives you more and more appreciation for a guy like Lively.
Yeah, for sure. Also, situation help. I don't know if he's in the best situation right now to thrive playing. He's basically playing behind 2, like with Simmons and Sharp. I just don't know.
Simons is only playing his 3rd game though, so it's like
that's true.
And Simons is just like you know who Simons reminds me of? He's like evolutionary Monta Ellis to me. Like he's so small, but he shoots so well.
He's 3-point era Monta Ellis.
Yeah, and that's not an insult. Monte was incredible. It's just like what smaller scoring guards remind you. This is why passing is so damn important. Scoring smaller guards always remind me, when you watch them over a long enough timeline, just how important size ends up being. Yeah, just over the whole course of the thing. So,
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. What else in the world should we talk about this game?
Kamara, who you talked about, like 20 shots. So he's shooting 38% from the floor in this game. He was averaging 6 shots a game. Like, for him to shoot 20 times is hilarious. I thought this game, one thing I want to say, because we are running out of things to talk about, I think, because again, can't emphasize enough. This Portland roster that they put out was bad. Like, it's a bad team at full strength, and they're missing 3 of their, top 5 or 6 players. So extra bad. It was kind of like Utah. Utah was also missing 2 or 3 of their top 6. So a bad team got worse, which is not a good recipe for a competitive game. But one thing I want to credit, I don't know if it was a coaching decision or if it was more Portland ineptitude, but Simons had a little run at the start of the 4th, got the game down to 1-point lead for the Mavs. It was 99-98. And then the Mavericks stepped on their throats from there. Like, it was game over after that. And I thought what was really, I was watching that Simons run, and I was like every other player on the Trailblazers that's not Simons or Sharp is like an offense. It's not that just they're the only 2 that can score. The other players are offensive black holes. Like, they're anemic. Like, why are you letting one of the only 2 players that can do anything do something? And I was like, they got to start trapping. They got to play more aggressive. They got to, face guard. They got to double team. And lo and behold, once it got down to 99-98, I feel like the Mavericks kind of flipped the switch and were like, oh, yeah, these other guys stink. And they let Kamara and they let Reith and they let Jabari Walker and Matisse Thybulle handle the ball and shoot. And I saw Derek Jones Jr. was face guarding Simons off the ball, denying passes and stuff like that. And I wish that happened more often. There was an honest to God defensive adjustment in the middle of a game, and it worked and it won. And I think, kudos, but also let's see that a couple more times this season, please.
Well, and Followell, I sort of wish Followell and Devin Harris would have commented on this, because they seemed sort of aghast that those other players were taking shots. But you're right. It was in no small part due to defensive adjustments. So
yeah. And Luka, I think, was guarding Kamara, and I don't know if you've ever seen an NBA player disrespect another NBA player more. I think of what would be fun if you guys could, if you have access to the replays, maybe watch Luka guarding Kamara in this game, because he's like, all right, buddy, you do you can take a spinning hook shot in the paint that you airball. That's fine. We'll just take it and score. Yeah, that was crazy game. What a weird game.
Well, the last Mavericks thing I think I'm going to bring up is I don't think it's, you ended the last podcast talking about how we don't discuss Luka's brilliance often enough. There have been multiple plays. It's the same play, but every time I see it, I'm in awe, where Luka is driving left and he's got Lively on the roll. And at this point, he's usually has 1 to 1.5 guys on him, sometimes 2 committing, and Lively on the roll with the help defender or the first defender trailing in an oh shit panic mode. Luka looks to the left corner for the 3-point shooter and throws an over the head oop, places the ball on top of the rim for Lively to dunk. And it's just so gorgeous. And I just wanted to say it out loud, because I remember when Luka was a rookie, I didn't think he could throw oop passes. Do you remember? Because he
yeah, I do.
I mean, he could, but it's he was getting used to the athleticism, and things would just kind of go awry. And now he just dishes it up there. So, I mean, it's really something to watch. I love it so much.
Yeah, and I think props to Lively for feel like every game gets better at screening, gets better at the timing, when to go, when not to go, when to roll. They've got that synced up in a way that's happened so fast that I'm a little stunned. As talented as Lively is, who's the I'm so sorry, I forget his name, but the draft guy you talked to pre-draft that loved Lively. Oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. You recorded a podcast with him where
A
he
whole
was like,
podcast. This is my
yeah,
somebody in the chat's gonna know. He's the one who told us we were drafting Lively. He does a podcast with Mavs Draft.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So Locked On NBA Draft. What's my man's name? This is just it's just killing me. It's NBA Big, our guy at NBABigboard.com. What is Rafael Barlow? God,
Yes,
I'm not seeing him tweet in a while because he's been working. Like he's been overseas, like scouting guys. Sorry, Barlow, you're the man. I'm super tired.
Yeah, he was all over it. Like he needs a victory lap.
What I need to see in these games where they're kicking the shit out of somebody is I need a lively 3-point attempt. That's what I need. I need a lively pick and pop three, like Barlow said he was pretty good at, and I like the roof will come down if Derek Lively sinks a three on a pick and pop.
Yeah, that would be nuts. But yeah, he's awesome. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, and it feels even more ridiculous. Like when you see him on the floor, and then when they go to Powell or Morris or Holmes, and it's like, man, this dude cannot get hurt. Like if the Mavericks want to do something, like I cannot believe that. Like outside of Luka, a 19-year-old center drafted technically outside of the top 10 is your second most important player.
Well,
it's just pretty rare.
It's funny. You were kind of going to write about it, and then Meta decided she was going to, like, Meta wrote a piece that came out yesterday. If you guys haven't seen it, and she I should have edited this out. I should have just done it, but it was like 7:30 in the morning when she gives me credit for a line. Cause like I often will wake up in the middle of the night with baby stuff and just like say things into our Slack. And she gives me all this credit in this beautiful piece that she wrote about Derek Lively and about the American big man that you should absolutely go check out on Mavs Moneyball. And like when Lively opened the game tonight, Luka gets doubled. He throws a pass to Lively at the top of the key. Lively does not hesitate and goes and scores with the left hand. You cannot stop the Mavericks on offense if that's what's going to happen. If he's able to make, because that guy at the rim, I remember he was like, oh no, I can't do anything here. This is great.
Yeah, and I mean, have the Mavericks ever had that in the Luka era? Someone that can catch that 4-on-3 double team pass, and like they've had guys that can make the right read.
I'm sure when Willie Cauley-Stein caught the ball, he had all these dribble moves in his head that he wanted to do that never happened.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got a question from JC, and I don't know how to answer it. Thoughts on Omax tonight? I didn't see Omax play very much because I was doing some baby stuff during it. But every time Omax is on the floor, my main thought is, Jesus, that dude is huge. What did you think?
Oh, well, he only played 5 minutes. I mean, he missed a wide open corner three, and then he got pulled, and he never got back on the floor.
Kid has got no patience for these young guys because, like this wasn't a Jaden Hardy game. He wouldn't have had anything to do. But it's like Hardy didn't play. I don't think he was a DNP.
No, he didn't. I don't think Kid wanted him anywhere near Simons or Sharp defensively.
So it's just like the short leash on these guys. You understand it. Like you really do. You understand it. But at the same time, you wish the other Mavericks would take care of business better so that those guys could get opportunities with a little more of a cushion.
Yeah. This was a game. Yeah, exactly right. Like if they took care of business a little bit better, those guys would have gotten some burn in the second half, which is valuable. But also I feel like once Kyrie went down, this game kind of shifted from this needs to be, a really easy, comfortable win to just win. Because I'm sure like morale was not great after seeing Kyrie went down. Because man, I don't know if you saw the replay, how many times you saw the replay. I mean, when I first saw like the replay, I was like, did his legs get broken? Because like the way Powell landed like directly on it almost felt like his shins. Like, when he got up and was like limping around, I was like, thank goodness. Because I honestly, the replay looked really, really gross. Like in terms of what it could have been, but we'll see what happens.
Oh goodness. Okay. So before we get out of here, it's been a while since we've asked for non-basketball recommendations. What have you been doing with yourself other than this stupid basketball team?
I don't have much to talk about. I've been playing. Played and completed Super Mario Brothers Wonder for the Switch, the newest Mario game. 2D classic Mario with some good twists. Every time I feel like Nintendo, like every Mario game just stacks upon itself, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've played like the best one, and then a new one comes out. I'm like, okay, then now this is the best one. If you have a Switch, like absolutely play it. It's phenomenal. It's not too hard if you just want to play through the main stuff, but if you do the secret levels, there are some devilish challenges toward the end of that game. When I beat to unlock the last level in the game, you have to like basically 100% everything, like collect all the stuff, and then it unlocks like a secret level. That's the hardest level in the game, but that doesn't have a lot of checkpoints. I think I started with 99 lives. I beat it at like 50 lives. Took me a few hours, and when I beat it, I felt like I won a championship, and I was like fist pumping in the living room while Megan was looking at me like I'm a lunatic.
Outstanding.
But yeah, great, phenomenal game. Recommend it. It has co-op if you have little ones, and it's got some really good accessibility options. Like there's some characters that don't take damage. If you play like as Yoshi, you don't take damage. So like if you have a little one that's new to games, I think that's a perfect opportunity to gateway them in. So
sounds nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to recommend. I only watched one episode of it, but I did this last night while feeding the baby at like 1 a.m. Netflix has a series out called Blue Eye Samurai. It's 10 episodes, I think. Might only be 8. I don't watch a lot of animated stuff because I don't really don't. And I watched the first episode and I'm like, I want to watch the second episode, even though I'm about to die. So that is I have to throw that out there. I know you don't watch a lot of stuff, but
man, between this and Invincible, do you need to be watching more animated stuff? Because you seem to be getting a kick.
Invincible is also as Brian says, Blue Eye Samurai is gas. So is Invincible. But I it's good writing. Just you know, I also told you this the other day. I think it wasn't even on the show. I don't think. Godzilla minus one.
I have to go this weekend.
I learned today that movie
wait.
cost $15 million to make, and it looks better than any blockbuster I've seen this year.
Good Lord.
So
just make more of those, please.
Yeah. All right. That's Kirk and Josh recommends. We'll be back on Monday because somehow we have 2 more days without games. I'm not going to record a group therapy or a Mavs party tonight because I'm whooped and I have to coach a basketball game at 8 a.m. Like, you know, my son will be psyched and all the kids will be ready to go, but I'm going to be toast. Jordan points out that Monarch on Apple TV is good. I love all Apple TV stuff, but it is everything on Apple TV feels like it is a giant money laundering scheme where they're just like, they spend so much money on this stuff. And it's like, okay, we're just going to throw $1 billion at Kurt Russell to seriously play. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will, we'll be back on Monday. Maybe I'll do I don't know. I'm not going to do another show. Why would I say that? And if anybody knows anything about how to help me with this stupid Apple problem, shoot me a message. But then again, if you're not hearing this on Apple, how would you know to help it? I just went and checked. Our podcast from the other day had 700 downloads. We normally get like 2,000. So that's how much our Apple audience is. That's fantastic. All right, everybody, be good. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the NBA midseason tournament tomorrow. That is fully rigged for LeBron James and the Lakers. We'll talk soon. Everybody enjoy your weekend. Go Mavs.